Hello, everyone. This is a quick introduction to Linux from the command line. My name is Galen Collier. I'm a computational scientist in the Cyber Infrastructure Technology Integration Group within CCIT here at Clemson University. If you'd like to get access to these slides in PDF format, they're available here from this URL on my department's website. And we'll be connecting to a Linux system during this session. If you have a Linux system in front of you, that's great. If you're using a Mac, you'll still need to connect to a separate Linux system. I'm using a Mac as well, so you can just follow the steps that I go through. If you're using a Windows machine, you'll need to download and install a Secure Shell client. And I recommend this one at this URL, the SSH Secure Shell client. I'll be providing instructions for how users can connect to the Palmetto cluster using a guest account. And you can download this client and connect to the Palmetto cluster and use that account to access a Linux system during this training session. All right. That said, let me go ahead and start sharing my desktop. And here are our slides. First of all, let me talk just a little bit about an operating system. Linux is an operating system, just like Windows or Mac OS X. And an operating system serves as sort of a liaison between hardware and the applications that you use on your computer. Strictly speaking, an operating system is a software platform that enables the running of applications that access the hardware of your system. So the operating system essentially just stands in between you, your user interface, and the hardware. Now, as I mentioned, Linux is a fully featured operating system like Windows or Mac OS X. It's used to control laptops, desktop workstations, servers, and it even has a friendly logo called Tux. But Linux differs from those other operating systems in a lot of important ways. First of all, Linux is a collaborative project, and it's an open source project. It's not a product from a single company like Windows or Mac OS X. And Linux can be configured to meet specific needs or be used on specific hardware. Linux is used in industry and research very, very heavily, partly because of the way it can be configured for specialized hardware needs, like running on large computer clusters. Linux is related to Unix. It's actually derived from Unix in a way. And this slide shows an overview of the Unix lineage and where Linux fits into all of this. Unix was originally developed starting in the late 60s, and Linux began its development process in the early 90s. Now, the original Unix operating system was developed in Bell Labs in the 1960s. And that operating system gave rise to the IEEE POSIX standard for a multi-user, multitasking operating system. When Unix began to be used in a commercial environment, it was necessary to train users to be able to use this type of system as they entered the workforce. And Minix was an education use only version of Unix that satisfied that need. A Finnish software engineer named Linus Torvalds used Minix as a grad student and realized that he could make another version of Unix, but a better version, customized with more updated tools and suggestions that he got from other software developers that he was working with. And so he started started this development of a new operating system project in the early 90s. And by 1991, he was inviting other users to participate and contribute code to this operating system, which came to be known as the Linux operating system. And Linux can be found in all kinds of different places because it can be configured for specific hardware platforms. Nowadays, we find Linux installed on portable devices. We find it on nearly all of the major supercomputers in the world. Linux is found embedded in electronic devices and a lot of musical instruments, as well as navigation systems in vehicles. This is a picture of a navigation system in a Volvo, and it's actually run by Linux. Linux comes in a lot of different versions or Linux distributions. You may have heard of different versions of Windows, like Windows Home, Windows Professional, Windows Enterprise, and there are also different versions of Mac OS X. There's Mac OS X for the desktop and Mac OS X Server. In the same way, there are different versions of Linux, and how they differ is only by the particular collection of applications that they come bundled with. And there are specific tools that are only used in certain versions or families of Linux. There are two major families of Linux to be aware of. There's the Red Hat family of Linux distributions, which include Fedora, CentOS, Scientific Linux, and a lot of others. And then there's the Debian family of Linux, which includes Ubuntu. Ubuntu is one of the most popular desktop Linux distributions available today. If you're interested in learning more about Linux distributions, take a look at distrowatch.com. It's sort of like a news site that provides all kinds of information about different Linux distributions, what their intention is, and some information about how popular they are at this time. There's a video, when I teach this class in person, I normally show this video, and it's a really useful video. You can go to the Linux Foundation website to view it, or you can simply download it from my department's website. The URL is provided there at the bottom of the slides. It's about a 3-minute video, and it provides a nice overview of how Linux is developed and how it's maintained and kept up to date. So as I mentioned, Linux can be a fully featured operating system, just like Windows or Mac OS X, but Linux is used specifically in research and high-performance computing applications because Linux can be streamlined to just consist of the bare components of an operating system needed for computation. There are no print services or things like that on a streamlined version of Linux, and that makes it appropriate for an advanced computing resource like a cluster. Typically in that type of environment, you won't have a GUI, a graphical user interface, so you have to do everything from the command line. Knowing how to use Linux from the command line can be extremely useful in modern research. Now, if you have access to a Linux system, go ahead and log into it now. If you want to log into the Palmetto cluster, I'm going to be logging into the Palmetto cluster from my Mac terminal. So if you're using a Mac, just follow what I do in just a moment. If you're using a Windows environment, you need to download that SSH Secure Shell client. And when you have it downloaded and installed, you can connect to Palmetto in this way. You'll connect to the hostname user.palmetto.clemson.edu, and the username will be hpcguest followed by some number between 20 and 80. In the slides, in my example, I'm using hpcguest45. The username is all lowercase, as well as the hostname for Palmetto. That's all lowercase. If you already have a Palmetto account, then just go ahead and use that account to log into Palmetto. Your username will be your Clemson username for accessing things like the Clemson library. It's all the same username. Your password is also the same. Palmetto doesn't have a unique password for Clemson users. It's your standard Clemson network password. If you're logging in using one of these HPC guest accounts, the passwords are all the same. It's HPCCU 2013. Now I'm going to connect to Palmetto from my Mac terminal. And if you're using a Linux environment, if you want to connect to Palmetto, you can do it the same way I'm doing it. SSH, your username, followed by user.palmetto.clemson.edu. That's the same host name that everybody's going to use to connect to the cluster, whether you're connecting from Windows or Mac or a Linux environment. You'll be asked for your password, of course. And there I am. I am logged into the Palmetto cluster. You can see in my terminal window, I've got a command prompt. where it shows my username at followed by the name of the host name, the name of the machine that I'm currently logged into. That's the host name of the machine I'm logged into. And that machine is called user001. There's a little tilde there in my command prompt. That tilde is a shortcut that represents my home directory. So you'll see me use that again later, but that just lets me know I'm in my home directory.